Hey everyone, this is Martin Johnson, author of the Atheist Survival Guide. Welcome back. So I was talking to a friend today about Project 2025, Christian nationalism, all the threats of a second Trump administration. And they said, hey, well, we're living in California. We're very fortunate. We really don't have to worry about this problem, at least not anytime soon. Barring the fact that, Republicans and Project 2025 have promised to do things like enforce the 19th century Comstock Act, which forbids the sending of, at least is how they interpret it, anything that's abortion related and potentially anything that's contraception related through the mail. Basically shutting down abortions, shutting down contraception nationwide. But beyond that, it's natural to kind of question, how far would our state leaders go in protecting our rights and freedoms in the face of a national government that is turned towards Christian nationalism. And it's a fair point. But one of the things that that I've noticed, and I'll flip over my camera right here. You can see there that one of our neighbors is flying a "Fuck Joe Biden" flag front and center, which is, and this is obviously, from a lot of people's standpoint, very odd, given that, I live in Silicon Valley. This is considered kind of the bastion of liberalism and wokeism. You hear conservatives saying, hey, high-tech people like myself, we're all liberal and woke and have it out for for conservatives. And that's why they're constantly fighting, everything from Facebook to TikTok and so on. And that may be true for a lot of us that are rank and file. We do tend to skew liberal or libertarian. It's kind of natural, kind of a place for people to be who are not, wedded to tradition. They're always kind of looking for new ways of doing things in terms of AI, in terms of high-tech development. But if you look at the power centers, those who are running these companies, most of them are conservative Republicans. They're not necessarily socially conservative, but they're willing to forego, social causes for lower taxes, for being able to reduce the protections of their employees, and to be able to push anti-regulation legislation. Just like businessmen anywhere. And they're the ones who actually wield the power. They're the ones who have the ear of our politicians, liberal politicians included, because they're the ones who are providing the money, the support, the infrastructure, and so on for their ability to run for office. So, ultimately, you could definitely have, and I'm not, by nature a paranoid person, but, I don't think most, politicians necessarily have our best interests at heart, or in many ways, they're willing to kind of forego their values to stay in office, justifying it, saying, well, if I'm not in office, then somebody worse will be. At least I'm here to kind of hold down the fort and, protect your liberties. But, there are also a lot of them who would be able to kind of do the calculus saying, all the money is in this country, all the power is flowing to people like Trump, like the MAGA Republicans. Maybe I need to rethink what I'm doing to be able to maintain my position and my power. People don't typically go into politics, don't go into business, other than to, build and maintain their power. But there's also kind of a more concerning component of this, because if you look at somewhere like Silicon Valley, where a "Fuck Joe Biden" flag can fly, and if I look around, majority of my neighbors, granted I'm on kind of the edge of Silicon Valley, are mostly MAGA. I have a neighbor who's first responder who flies the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. Number of people are militia members, 3%ers. Again, this is in the heart of Silicon Valley. Think about how much worse it is in many other parts of the country. But given that, how many of these people would be willing to turn on me, their neighbor, even though I'm a good neighbor? I mow people's lawns. I contribute to the neighborhood. I look after people's homes when they're out. But how many of these people, kind of driven by wanting to belong to the in crowd, the MAGA crowd, those who want to, stick it to the libs, would be willing to step up and make my life and other liberals and atheists like myself make our lives miserable? My wife was raised in Iran. She went through the Iranian Revolution. And, one of the things that she saw was the rise of something called the Basij, which was an unofficial kind of paramilitary group tasked, at least unofficially, with upholding virtue and fighting vice, with the primary focus on keeping men and women apart in public and forcing women to wear the hijab, sometimes with the threat of beatings and killings and torture, and all of this without state sanction. Basically, the government just kind of, with a wink and a nod, realized that they need kind of this grassroots support to be able to oppress its people, and they condoned it. And over time, through the 80s, the Basij became more and more important, more and more empowered, more wealthy, because the government gradually sanctioned them. They're now a part of the Iranian regime. And that could very easily happen here, particularly given in the US, more than, say, Europe, has militias, has the 3%ers, has a lot of these Proud Boys and other groups that, as Three Stooges as they sometimes seem, running around headless with their, fat guts and their guns. Given the proper motivation, you could definitely see some of these people, ex-cops, ex-military, ex-first responders, that are part of these organizations, using their kind of military skills and so on to police MAGA within our neighborhoods, making sure that we'll weed out those people that are against our true leader, or who don't necessarily adhere to Christian nationalist values, if you can call some of the misogynistic, homophobic, xenophobic beliefs that a lot of these groups hold as values. So, in a nutshell, I think particularly those of us who are, again, living on the East Coast and on the left coast, we become far too complacent. I've even heard, people who are, LGBTQ community saying, "Oh, it's no big problem. Project 25 won't go anywhere. Our government protections are there. There are laws in place to protect us." But, given that there's no guarantee that our Senate and House will not switch over to the Republicans in the election, and the fact that, the conservatives control SCOTUS right now, with a 6-3 majority, but for the next president, there's a high chance that they'll get to select at least 2 more Supreme Court justices, leaving us an 8-1 minority, something that I don't think we could really recover from as a democratic nation. So that's my 2 cents. Again, thanks for listening to me vent. As always, you're welcome to drop me a line and we can discuss it further. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.